Sadly, yes. And I'm just thinking about that. But I think I've also felt it myself. And I used to have this as one of my insecurities, that I would say something like, yeah, I know everything. Well, I know most things about the inside of a mass spec, but I couldn't derive the Schrödinger equation or something that no one ever asks you to do anyway. But I was always worried that at the end of a talk, someone would ask me to derive something on the board, and I wouldn't be able to do it because I wasn't a true chemist or a true something. And actually, in my career, no one has ever said, oh, but you're not really a chemist or a physicist, or you're not really anything. They've just been fine with the talk. And no one does try to catch you out on the basics of the subject that you're not super familiar with. I've decided that that's what I have to tell people, focus. And actually, my mentors always said this: focus on the bits you do know and just you need to know. But don't worry about whether you can derive some ridiculous equation on the board, because, as I say, no one's ever asked me to do that. But I've always had it as a sort of slight nightmare that they might ask me and then just be like, what, you're a chemist and you can't do that, or you're a biologist, but you don't know something. And I did make quite fundamental mistakes. But I don't think, well, I like to think it doesn't really matter anymore, because, maybe I didn't know everything about biology when I started, and I did make some gaffes in talks or something, but people don't really remember that anymore. There is a thing whereby we need to get away from this. You need to not be thinking, but I don't know X. You just think, actually, but I know all of this, which may not appear relevant, but it will be, and I can show you how it's going to be really useful. I do think when I started, when I was in Cambridge, I started working at this neurochemistry institute, and I remember they were all very distinguished, and I thought, well, I only know how to sequence a peptide on the mass spec. They're going to tumble me as some sort of imposter, and I felt very guilty about that. And I said, oh, but I'm just a chemist, and I just understand this, and I don't really understand all these regions of the brain that you're talking about. But actually, nobody cared, to be honest. Or and I picked it up by immersion. I think that is underestimated, that you go to talks each week, and when you first go, you don't know what anyone's talking about, and then by the end, you kind of know what's happening, because you go to the first one, you think, oh, I must look that up, and slowly, you don't necessarily have to go completely in depth, but you can pick it up so that people can understand you and you can understand them. And I don't think that is too outrageous to be able to do.